Alright, what's going on, guys? With the release of the new big update for Elden Ring, Nightreign, bringing the new mode Deep of Night, it's been getting a bit of a mixed reception. And I think there's a lot of different reasons for that. Overall, it's been a lot of fun, but still seems to struggle with one of the core problems of Nightreign overall, and that is the game just feeling different from run to run. But overall, it definitely has brought the challenge everyone was hoping for in a hard mode. However, things are about to change with the announcement of a new patch that's going to be shifting how Deep of Night functions. And we're going to break everything down today. Also in the news that we need to talk about, Bloodborne on PC or a remake is back in the headlines. And unfortunately, it is not for a good reason. I know everybody gets sick of talking about Bloodborne remakes until something's actually confirmed, but we're going to talk about this today. But as we get started, as always, if you want to stay up to date on all things FromSoftware and Elden Ring, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and now let's get into it. Alright, so let's start off today by talking about this new Nightreign update that's going to be coming out sometime soon. Now, in a pretty weird instance, Bandai Namco actually dropped the patch notes for this ahead of time, with the update not yet confirmed for a date of when it'll actually be dropping. Now, I believe they did this because people were having a lot of issues, even being able to play the game in the first place with things like disconnects, and then of course getting insane demotions because of that when it's not even their fault. So this is kind of damage control to say, hey, we know this is an issue, we're going to fix it very soon, and here's what we're going to do. So let's go through these patch notes, and then I want to talk about some other issues Deep of Night has that I think need to be fixed, or changes that should be made down the line, but let's dive into this real quick. Elden Ring Nightreign upcoming Deep of Night adjustments. Nightfarers, an issue resulting in your depth level ranking not increasing after a victory in the Deep of Night mode has been identified. That is a massive problem. An upcoming update will bring a temporary fix to this issue as well as quality of life changes for this mode. Now, what do they mean by temporary fix there? Having a problem where your rank doesn't increase after a win in a ranked mode is a massive issue. That's got to be fixed permanently, so why only a temporary one? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The following changes will be included. A new feature to voluntarily decrease your depth ranking by 1 level. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now, I've only played up to depth 3 runs so far. I haven't had that much time to grind the mode as I would like, but I understand why they implemented this because Deep of Night is kind of the only way to get a truly randomized run. So if you want to play Nightreign in the way it was truly intended to be played, but don't want to be playing at the difficulty of say depth 3, where you're getting a lot of very spongy enemies that can one-shot you, then I totally understand why somebody would want to demote themselves. And that's kind of a problem in itself too, right? You shouldn't have to go into the ranked hard mode to get a randomized run. But we'll talk about that more in a minute. Rank demotion protection. When reaching depth levels 3, 4, and 5, you will be granted a rank loss demotion protection. This will prevent you from losing a depth level after a defeat that would trigger this loss. This rank loss protection will be applied for 1 defeat for depth level 3 and 2 defeats for depth level 4 and 5. This protection also applies even after reaching these levels again after a depth level demotion. Alright, so that's obviously a good thing. Most ranked modes in games have some form of demotion protection anyway, so giving you at least 1 or 2 when reaching a new rank is a good way to get you adjusted to the new difficulty without having fear of losing what you just worked for. Now some little matchmaking adjustments. If a depth level 1 player is matched with higher ranking players during a depth level 2 plus expedition, the level 1 player will not lose points upon defeat. And finally, Steam players will be able to continue an ongoing session even if they get disconnected from the Steam servers due to a Steam server maintenance or outage. We don't have a release date for this update yet, but I assume it'll come out sometime this week. Usually it doesn't take too long, especially if they're releasing patch notes early. Now here's where I kind of want to talk about some things that this update did not address. Some other core problems with Deep of Night. Now first of all, like I said earlier, this should not be the only way to get a truly randomized run. There should be a casual mode where you don't know what boss you're going to fight, you don't know what shifting earth you're going to get, and it should just be for fun where you don't have to worry about things like rank. Overall, that was one of the biggest problems with Nightreign on release, and now they've kind of fixed it here, but it's only in this ranked hard mode. Now even with that, there's still the problem of every run feeling the same, especially with the way the seeds work. We're back to one of the problems the game had on release where shifting earths are incredibly rare. I know for me personally, I've played about 25, maybe 30 runs of Deep of Night, and I've only had 1 run with a shifting earth, which again, even in this random mode, makes every run feel almost exactly the same. And now another big issue with Deep of Night, not really one that can be addressed in a patch, but mainly in the way this mode was marketed. We were told that depths 4 and 5 were going to be endless. Now lo and behold, when you get to depths 4 and 5, they are exactly the same. So then you justify it by saying, well, they just meant that depths 4 and 5 will have endless rank. But that doesn't actually make any sense because depth 4 has an end. It ends when you get to depth 5. So what exactly is endless here? They said we'll feature an endless battle, but the night still ends after you beat the Night Lord. So I can't be the only one here that was expecting some kind of endless mode, but that seems to just not exist. Now overall, I have enjoyed Deep of Night quite a bit. I enjoy the challenge it brings. I like having something to grind for. It would have been nice if there were some exclusive rewards, like new skins, or some way to display your rank outside of the mode itself, but I guess it was a free update, so we can't be too picky. But now that a little time has passed, what are you guys thinking about Deep of Night? Has it lived up to your expectations? Were you expecting a little bit more? And how far in the ranks have you gotten? Y'all let me know down below. So now let's talk Bloodborne. If you were somebody that was still holding out hope for a Bloodborne on PC or Bloodborne remake, any kind of new Bloodborne project going on, it's been rough. Rumors have popped up and disappeared pretty much every month for the past few years, and nothing has come of it. Well, it looks like that's still going to be the case, so take a look at this.
Nexus Games, oh look there.
I mean, Bloodborne, we know it's because they kind of just, they can't move on that unless FromSoftware's involved and they're busy.
And from seems like they don't want to do it with Sony, and they're kind of like, I don't know. Anything beyond the FromSoftware would have to be involved, and they're not going to do it right now. I don't know, but that's my understanding of the situation. It continues to be that way. Checked on it relatively recently and kind of continued to hear nothing is happening with Bloodborne, so don't expect that. These other ones, though.
Now that is coming from Jeff Grubb, who has been a long-time game news broadcaster who occasionally shares leaks, though his credibility isn't always the most accurate. The Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remakes come to mind. But the thing about Jeff Grubb is he does have a ton of connections in the industry, and this is one time where I really do believe him. If he says he checked on it, I'm sure he did talk to people that would be in the know, and this is the one time where somebody actually admits that nothing is happening with Bloodborne. Usually it's people trying to get some clout by claiming they know something that is happening, and every single time that has not been the case. Now the actual interesting part of this though is what he says, his reasoning of why he thinks it hasn't happened. And he says here that Sony wants to do it, but they don't want to do it without FromSoftware. But FromSoftware is too busy and doesn't want to bother themselves with this project. And also with this, I kind of think that might be the case. That is in line with what former PlayStation executives said, where they mentioned that FromSoftware was just simply too busy to pick up the project. You know, every time this topic comes up you hear, oh, it's Sony's fault, Sony's allergic to money, they don't want to get any money out of this. If they did, they would just remake Bloodborne. And that might be true for a PC port, but as far as any kind of remake or sequel goes, it might just simply be the case that Sony respects FromSoftware enough to not do the project without them. And I think in all likelihood, that's probably exactly what's happening. You know, I think if this was some kind of corporate greed scenario where they just wanted to do it for money, it would have been passed off to Bluepoint or some other company and pumped out as quickly as possible. But clearly, money is not the motivation here. Otherwise, it would have happened already, because it very simply just makes way too much sense. But yeah, unfortunately not good news here on the Bloodborne front. Pack it up, guys. You know, if you haven't learned by now to just wait until official confirmation on Bloodborne, then maybe this was the catalyst you need to finally start doing that. Anyways though guys, that's gonna pretty much do it for the video today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like on it. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below, and subscribe if you're new around here, and I will catch you in the next one.